Starbane's Avenue.
Coming to you live from our houses in Los Angeles, California, it's Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone, your comedy field guide to life. Tonight, on June 27, 2015, Bree Newsome Bass scaled the flagpole on the South Carolina state grounds and removed the Confederate flag that was flying there. The resulting publicity propelled officials to lower the Confederate flag permanently. Bree is on our show tonight to talk about our nation's symbols, her current work on housing rights, and just how do you get up a flagpole anyway? Plus, how are we doing in the American Minor Outlying Islands? Let's put it this way, we have a listener. If you think you've heard that introduction before, you're correct. We were going to get to that on the things we haven't gotten around to during COVID's show, and we didn't get around to it. But we will tonight, because COVID is totally behind us, right? I'm Adam Felber, the man who tries every week to steer our show through the minor outlying islands of distraction to the port of coherency. And now, please welcome the woman who grabs the wheel of conversation and sets our course on a parlous voyage to the minor outlying islands of loquacity, Paula Poundstone.
Yeah. Hey, you guys. Hey.
Hi, Paula.
Hey, everybody, and hey, Adam, and thanks so much to tonight's house band, Nobody, Sophie Taft Lehman from Iowa City on the electric viola.
Thanks, Sophie.
Oh, yes. Oh, by the way, Sophie Taft Lehman is also a multi-instrumentalist. We had to narrow it down to the electric viola for tonight's show.
Oh, is that true?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, Paula, we've got something super exciting happening, a new contest with a fabulous prize for our listeners. You wanna break it down for everybody?
Yes. First of all, we are giving away with this contest the opportunity to have a Zoom call, because everyone loves Zoom calls,
Who doesn't?
with 100 of the winning listeners' friends, with me and Adam. And if you don't have 100 friends, A, join the club. There's hundreds of us. And B, as many friends as you want, up to 100.
We'll show up anyway.
Yeah, we'll be there. So that's 2. It's the Spot the Vocabulary Word contest. And here's how it works. During this show, we're all, that's me, Bonnie, everybody on the show, we're all going to use vocabulary
Me and Tony
words.
are the only ones you didn't mention in that.
Well, I was thinking, no, like Mike Boom Boom Bonifit.
Oh, like the callers.
Right.
Oh, he counts. Okay.
All the participants, we're all going to use vocabulary words at some random points of the show, and we'll just throw in vocabulary words that we've been learning for, I don't know, months and months on this show. Now, astute listeners will know that we've already used a couple. The first person to identify all the vocabulary words that were used in this show wins that Zoom call with me and Adam and up to 100 of your friends. And I hope it doesn't go to somebody who has to tell a lot of friends no. You just have to be the first person to email us the list of all the vocabulary words we'll use during tonight's show. Email your list to us at nobodylistenstopaulapoundstone@gmail.com, and please put in your subject line. It needs to say vocabulary contest in the subject line.
Wow. So, Paula, just to recap, or should I say to engage in a tautology, during tonight's show, keep track of all the vocabulary words you hear us use. Email that list to nobodylistenstopaulapoundstone@gmail.com. Use as a subject line vocabulary contest, and the first email we receive with the complete list of vocabulary words that we used on tonight's show wins a Zoom call with you and me and up to 100 of your friends. Now, here's a question, Paula. What about the vocabulary song itself? Does that count?
Yep. Every vocabulary word counts.
So every word that's a vocabulary word from this show that we use counts towards this exciting contest.
That is correct.
All right, Paula.
Adam, in fact, I do have a word. I do have a word for this crazy week. It's gaucherie. It's a
Ooh.
noun that means awkward or unsophisticated ways. Here, I'll use it in a sentence. My language, khaki shorts, and unshaven legs have been called gaucherie. In fact, I have such a collection of gaucherie I could hawk it from a booth on Venice Beach.
Now, Paula, let me ask you a question. What is it, usage-wise, when would you use gaucherie and when would you use gauche?
You know, Adam, you're going to have to ask somebody over in the usage department. I really just generate the words. I don't.
That's right. Tony Anita Hull, you now have a new job. You're now our usage department.
I believe gauche is an adjective, whereas gaucherie is the gauche thing.
Oh, so you might say, oh, that's so gauche, but you might say, oh, that's a gaucherie.
Yeah.
Okay.
She has a lot of gaucherie, meaning she has many things that fall into the gaucherie category. That's how I would say.
Right.
That's
Well, just like
but, you
that,
know,
Tony Anita Hull, the usage department's been taken away from you.
No, I'm sure I need backup. Tony, she's Googling right now. She's madly Googling. Yeah. I do have a tremendous amount of gaucherie, but I also have a tremendous talent on the glockenspiel. So here is my vocabulary song. Here we go. This week's word is gaucherie. It's a noun that means awkward or unsophisticated ways. I haven't used a napkin in days. Last week's word was disputatious. It's an adjective that means fond of or causing heated arguments. Fuck you, I don't want your 2 cents. The week before that we had inveigle. It's a verb that means persuade someone to do something by deception or flattery. I love you, Mom, will you buy me a new phone battery? Going back before that we had revivify. It's a verb that means give new life or strength to someone or something. It happens when you eat a ring ding. And not long ago we had parlous. It's an adjective from old use or humor. It means dangerously uncertain, precarious, like a maskless idiot with a virus. Let's never forget Gallimaufry, which I pronounced wrong until nobody James Hyder corrected me. It's a noun that means confused jumble or medley of things. Hodgepodge. Who's podge? Hodgepodge. Adam doesn't think my song is replicable, but I do. Woo.
Nice.
Whoa. Yeah.
Oh,
that
that's
is-
fantastic.
Oh.
And despite its place in the song, replicable is not actually a vocabulary word.
No, replicable is not a vocabulary word. It's just a word
Just let
that
let
you
our
used.
listeners know.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yes.
You didn't painstakingly seek it from the dictionary. You just used it in a critical way towards my work.
I did. Back then was before you became a glockenspiel virtuoso, I will point out.
Yeah. In fact, it's a subject that you've been obdurate on.
You think so? All right.
Oh, about my song not being replicable? Oh, yeah. You used to say it all the time. I mean, you kind of gave it up once I put the words into the song, but before that, it was your song.
Okay. Well, that's
You
fine.
know,
I want to go.
replicable.
I think it was about 6 months ago that I said I'm finding your song kind of replicable at this point, even though the lyrics change every single week.
Yeah, I believe you did finally accept that it was an effective song, and then that night you got a rash.
Yeah, but, that's a small matter for me. I get rashes whenever I have to admit anything. I think, in general, I handled it with aplomb.
I think so. Just so you guys know, rash is not a vocabulary word. Are Tony and Bunny even there?
Yeah, I should get to that. Now, we had this vocabulary thing up top, so we had to ignore the most important and exciting part of the show, which is when we check in with our cast of characters who always have some new goodie to drop on us for discussion. So let's go around the horn and say hi to Bonnie Burns and Tony Anita Hull. Let's start with you, Bonnie Burns, up in the Simi Valley. How are things?
Hello.
Hey, Bonnie.
It's good to talk to you guys.
Hey, Bonnie.
Good to talk to you.
Captain Crinkle.
Listen, I have to creplicate to keep my name up.
All right.
Yeah,
Good
there you go.
crepitation there.
So,
What's on the hot
let's
sheet,
see.
Bonnie Burns?
What's in the hot seat? Well, okay. The other couple of shows ago, we had a cheesemonger on, and her name was Carly Lisk, and she mentioned a cheese that the monks made. They stopped importing it into the United States because we had too many rules, but she said that there was a great cheese that was just as good in Northern California. So my daughter and I, you know how I am an opsomath, and we decided to have a new experience, and it was a lot easier than going to Lamasery, and we ordered the cheese that the woman recommended. It's called the Point Reyes Toma, and it came. I've never had what they call an artisan cheese. It was so good. And now I think I'll never be able to go back to store-bought cheese. I mean, honestly, you guys, it was so great.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, was this was a nice soft cheese, right? Or
Yes, it was soft, like semi-soft, and it came packed all 100% recyclable, 100%. And they included great printed materials that told the whole story of how they'd come from Italy and how many acres their cows were on, and you know
Wow.
how they made the cheese. And it really did make a difference to know the story. And they even included a little pin that has like a little scene of their place in Northern California. It was so cool. And we actually found, just a tip for anybody who wants to do it, we looked on Amazon, and then we actually went to the website of the Point Reyes place, and it was way cheaper at the Point Reyes place.
Oh, good to
You
know.
know, what I'm struck by is that it was another mother-daughter project for them. It wasn't, you know, they went to someplace on the computer together. That's a beautiful outing.
It's a COVID outing.
And wait, here's a good part. I actually read my daughter from the transcript of the show. So I was telling her about the different cheeses that the woman talked about, and telling her about this cheese, and then we decided we'd order this cheese. And in reading the transcripts were some of Paula's jokes, and my daughter goes, "That Paula is really funny."
Oh, boy. You guys should get more cheese together.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you the whole mother-daughter
It's a
experience.
giant step forward, because if you remember, about a year ago, the last big project you did with your daughter was you made homemade Butterfingers for me and Paula. And if I'm not mistaken, Ivy lost interest and wandered off, and you went ahead to finish up making the most legendarily shitty candy ever made.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay, I feel a little bad for talking out of class this way, but I'm going to do it anyways, which is, so I was talking to Bonnie Burns the other day, and she, you know, we were just talking about work, and she said she had a couple of things on her list of difficult things to talk to me about. She
What?
apparently she keeps a list of difficult things to talk to me about, and then she sort of sprinkles one or so in. And I happen to have, well, with the use of a drone, I got a look at the list, and one of the things was just "you suck." That was one of the things, which apparently was difficult to broach, and so she's put that one off. Another one was "you don't make any money at all." That was that one very hard to talk about. Yeah. One of them was "you're looking a little jowly around the butt." That was
Wow.
yeah.
I don't know why she'd even feel the need to bring that up with you.
Well, she hadn't. See, just keep in mind, she hasn't yet brought any of these up. These were on the
This
list.
is just the list.
Yeah, they've
Okay.
she hasn't had the right moment to, you know, because I think she likes to go like sweet salt, sweet salt. So
Yeah, I got you.
she's waiting until there's a couple more good things to say to me. Like the thing about her daughter thinking I was funny then
Right.
that's a strong, sweet thing to say. So there's probably a powerful, like, why the fuck don't you
that's-
shave your legs coming up?
Yeah, no, I might deploy that one right before Jolly Butt.
Anyways, Tony, I know that Bonnie goes through her list with you every day, so she doesn't
Tony
keep
need a haul
anything from you.
from Studio City. What do you got for us?
Just skip me.
No!
No.
I went to the dentist. That was exciting.
Really?
I didn't even know people
Yeah, you weren't available for hours.
I know.
put that on the list. Just put that on the list. Tony, I didn't even know people could go to the dentist now.
My dentist is open. She worked by herself and worked quickly. It was impressive. She had no help. No more dental assistance.
Well, dentists already wear masks, right?
Yeah, she was wearing a mask and a face shield. So.
Oh, and a face shield. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Did you go to Jennifer Beals?
I wish she was my dentist.
Was she a maniac?
God,
Tony,
help me.
did you notice her shoulders were exposed from the top of her sweatshirt? Oh my God, you went to the Star of Flashdance.
Just a steel town girl on a Friday night, turning
God.
cavities into teeth.
I can't. I'm nonplussed.
Oh boy, you know what? We've had a lot. I mean, on this podcast, not just today, but in general, we have had a lot of vocabulary words, and yet I have to confess, my vocabulary seems just stuck in first gear, so to speak.
Oh, I think it's improving, and you're just not seeing it because it's like when you get strong and you work out. You don't know your own strength, and one day, Paula, you're gonna crush somebody with that vocabulary.
Well, of course, Captain Culpepper dying of tyrotoxism is something that came up as a result of the vocabulary word. So that's a vocabulary word right there.
Look at that! It's Mrs. Culpepper, our favorite Southern Belle hand puppet. Usually, it takes us time to draw out the cause of your husband's death, but you're saying it was tyrotoxism, huh?
It was tyrotoxism.
Tyrotoxism.
Yeah.
Poisoning from cheese.
Other dairy products, but specifically it was the Gouda that got him. Now that you mention it, Adam Felber.
Well, that was quick. Well, hindsight's 20/20, but in future, when you're serving cheese to your husband, Mrs. Culpepper, you might want to stick with the artisan cheeses.
I will not truckle to him.
Oh, boy, we are wearing out our listeners. Coming up, Ta-Nehisi Coates says, when I see the Confederate flag, I see the attempt to raise an empire in slavery. It really is that simple. I don't understand how anybody with any sort of education on the Civil War can see anything else. Well, Bree Newsome Bass is here to talk about how she got South Carolina to lower its Confederate battle flag. That's coming up when we return on Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone. All right, everybody, this episode is brought to you by Magic Spoon. Now, Paula, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, the best thing about the morning, especially Saturday mornings when it was cartoon time, was padding down to the kitchen, opening up the cupboard, and pouring myself a bowl of sugary cereal.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. And I loved it a lot. And then one day I grew up and I realized that I was just pumping sugar into my body in a way that I really shouldn't. So I've cut down on carbs and sugar and unhealthy food, and I basically can't eat anything anymore. My breakfast usually consists of a bagel, maybe lightly smeared with cream cheese, and it's just not as fun.
No, that doesn't sound fun at all. And where's the prize in that?
There's no prize until Paula Poundstone, what has appeared but Magic Spoon cereal?
Magic Spoon tastes amazing. Honestly, too good to be true. And it has zero sugar.
What?
Zero sugar. It's hard to even say. 11 grams of protein and only 3, count 'em, 3, baby, net grams of carbs in each serving. All right, I'm going to tell you something, you guys. I happen to know that it's keto friendly, but I am not going to pretend that I know what the hell a keto is. It's keto friendly. It's gluten-free, it's grain-free, it's soy-free. There is so much stuff that they don't put in here, it's hard to believe it fills the bowl. It's low
but
carb.
But it does.
It's GMO-free. There's not one G, not one M, and not one O in the whole damn thing. There are 4 flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and hinkleberry. Oh, no, that's blueberry.
Well, I gotta say, just as a new fan of the Magic Spoon thing, I'm a big fan of the fruity flavor. And by the way, note that the word fruity does not have the letters G, M, or O in it. So go to magicspoon.com/Paula to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code Paula, again, the mysterious word Paula, at checkout to get free shipping. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, and with good reason. It's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. Now, that doesn't mean that you will be 100% happy. It means you will be 100% happy with the product. So if you don't like it for any reason, yeah, it's true. They'll refund your money, no questions asked.
You know, I'm eating the Frosted the other day, and they were tasting so good. And then I thought to myself, Frosted? Well, there's no sugar. What the hell are they frosted with? Well, I'll tell you what they're not frosted with. They're not frosted with gluten or grain or soy or a lot of carb or GMO. I don't know what they're frosted with.
They're frosted with love.
That's magicspoon.com/Paula and use the code Paula for free shipping. Hey, by the way, thanks, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring the podcast.
Yeah, thanks.
On this day in unremarkable history, Dave Clark said, "Because there's 5 of us."
Thank you, house band Sophie Taft Lehman. Oh, Sophie on the viola.
Yeah, Iowa City is heating up. Thanks, Sophie. It sounds great.
Now, Paula, I know that you and I are both admirers of what Bree Newsome Bass did back in 2015.
I loved her act of civil disobedience. And, you know, I never liked the presence of the Confederate flag, and I had certainly said so before. But I guess, to my dying shame, I had sort of accepted it as something that there was nothing could be done about. And you know what? I was wrong. And I am so grateful for her activism.
Amen. She's a filmmaker, musician, and activist who was arrested for removing the Confederate flag from the South Carolina State House grounds in the aftermath of the Charleston shooting. As a result of her activism, state officials were pressured to remove the flag, and it was taken down permanently on July 10, 2015. She is currently an advocate for housing rights. Please welcome to the show, Bree Newsome Bass.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here.
We're so glad you're here, Bree.
Yeah, Bree, thank you again for your activism. It's inspiring. And I have a question for you. So, by the way, I have something I have to confess, which is I sometimes confuse South Carolina with North Carolina.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
You got to be careful doing that in these parts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I think I've only worked in South Carolina maybe one time, whereas I've worked in North Carolina many, many times. But, you know, they have similar names, in fairness to me.
Right, but they're pretty clear about the direction.
Yeah, but how do you know when you don't know? I'm not compass head. Thank you. So here's a question of something that, again, I just... You know, the year 2020 is a couple of things. One thing is it's uncertain. But another thing it is a year where things are starting to sort of shift and break apart in a way that it just never occurred to me was possible. So I wanted to know, when you were growing up, did you grow up in North Carolina?
I was actually born in North Carolina, but grew up in Maryland. Would spend all of my time, like all of my summers, in North Carolina and South Carolina.
Oh, all right. So when you were in South Carolina, were you aware of the Confederate flag? Like, for example, here down the end of Wilshire Boulevard near the ocean, there's a statue. I couldn't tell you who it's a statue of. You know what I mean? You know how there are things and they're just around and you don't really think about them. They're just there. So growing up, were you affected by the fact of the Confederate flag being there?
Oh, yes. So even though, I told you I was born in North Carolina and grew up in Maryland, my family is from South Carolina. My grandmother was born in Greenville, South Carolina in 1926. And I actually grew up with her because she would come and stay with us like during the school year and kind of help my mom out with things. So, I grew up hearing about her experiences, in the South, witnessing the Ku Klux Klan firsthand. And of course, like we were all aware of the Confederate flag. That flag was raised in the 60s. There in South Carolina, really as a statement of opposition to the civil rights movement. So it was always, a huge controversy. Anytime we were there in the state capitol, it was just something everybody was always aware of and, were offended by. And then in the year 2000, they reached this kind of compromise, somewhat of a compromise, and moved the flag from the dome of the Capitol, where it was originally, to the lawn, where it was at the time that I took it down. And even at that point, it was like a major, controversy because they wrote into law that the flag couldn't be lowered for any reason unless there was a 2/3 approval in the State House. They also built another Confederate monument right next to it. That monument is actually still there on the Capitol ground. So it was something that, growing up, I was always aware of and always aware of, what it symbolized and the history behind it.
Right. I mean, I think that's a point that some people still miss, which is that a lot of this flag raising and monument building didn't happen in the wake of the Civil War. It happened as a direct response to the Civil Rights Movement.
Absolutely. Most of these things were erected like either during the Reconstruction era, that was when a lot of these monuments went up. And the whole point of putting these things up was to drive home the message that even though the Confederacy had lost the war, right, white supremacy was still the order of the day in the South. And so still today, in front of like many courthouses throughout the South, you will see this same Confederate soldier statue. And they were very strategic in terms of where they placed these monuments and statues.
So did you plan your assault on the Confederate flag? And I'm so glad they took it down from the dome because it would have made your task harder.
Yeah, a little bit.
So did you plan it or was it spontaneous? How did it come about?
This was definitely planned. So it came together in about the course of a week because it was just about 10 days between the shootings in Charleston and when I scaled the pole there. I had already been working with a group of activists, actually in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is just an hour north of Columbia, where this flag was on display. And we were trying to figure out, is there a way that we could get the flag down? Because part of what was just so offensive about it, I told you about how they had changed this law in 2000. Well, right. After the shootings, they lowered the United States flag to half staff and lowered the state flag of South Carolina, but kept the Confederate flag at the top of the pole. And so that was kind of like where we were just like, you know what, we can't wait on the state of South Carolina to do the right thing. Like, this is the exact kind of situation where an act of civil disobedience is called for. And so it was actually, I had no experience like scaling a pole or anything like that. It was actually a Greenpeace activist who had experience scaling trees and, doing that type of protest, who trained me over the course of like a day and a half on this like technique.
So where did you do your
pole.
Training?
In Charlotte, actually. We were like driving around practicing on lampposts, trying not to raise too much suspicion. Around what we were doing. And so we were just
people would be driving past a lamppost and you would just be like partway up it and you're just nothing to look at here. Move on, folks.
Just hoping nobody makes the connection,
Wow.
Talk about the nuts and bolts of how you do it. How do you climb a flagpole?
So it's really kind of like scaling up the pole. So you have like a tether, like you're tethered around the pole and connected at 2 points. And then on the bottom tether, there's like a little foot loop that I would stand into. So if you can imagine, like I would put my foot into that and kind of hoist myself up and then hoist the whole harness up and just kind of like scale up that way. Yeah.
Is it hard?
Yeah, it's a little hard. It's a little difficult. The very first time I attempted it, I really wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it. And so it was something that I really did kind of have to work at. And part of what we practiced was, me at least trying to get about 8 feet off the ground before I even paused to kind of catch my breath, because we figured if I got that far up, it would be difficult for anybody to, grab me and try to pull me down.
Because cops there aren't that tall.
No, they're not quite that tall. And in fact, they had built this tall, like 4-foot spoked fence around it, which actually ended up giving me another layer of protection, because it wasn't easy for the cops to just kind of like, hop over the fence and then grab me.
And how did you get over the fence?
Well, so the other person who was arrested alongside me was James Tyson. He was one of the other people that was involved in this, and his role was to help me over the fence and then kind of be like the safety as I climbed. And so he was the one that helped me hop over.
Do you think that, as opposed to other types of civil disobedience, right? Do you think that the act of climbing was helpful because it gave you something to wrap your mind around? You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
You were engaged in an act. In a physical,
right. If you had just lowered the
act.
flag, no one would have paid attention, probably, or not much
Absolutely.
attention.
No, I think that's exactly true. So, like, the reason that I had to scale the pole was just because of how it was designed. They had created it with like this internal pulley system, so you couldn't just go up to it and lower it.
Wow.
But the fact of me having to do that added another layer of power to the action, because here you had a situation where the state was saying, oh, we can't take it down for this reason and that reason. But then you have an individual who is like performing the labor. You know what I mean? Yeah, like just like scaling it, like, no, you actually can. And it just highlighted in a way like the ridiculousness of the whole situation, right? Yeah. And then it also became symbolic of just this long struggle, to just like dismantle this whole system of racism.
Yeah. I have a spontaneous and uncontrollable big smile on my face as you're describing it. Because you're right. It's like you picked the right venue, because it's said more than the act. And, it was a great choice.
And we also really wanted to draw a contrast with what had happened in Charleston, right? So in Charleston, you had this white supremacist went into a church, shot unarmed people, ran away, like very cowardly kind of act. And here it was like in broad daylight, I'm prepared to be arrested. And that was part of what we wanted to communicate too. Like, we're not afraid, and we're not going to allow, these acts of terror to, deter us.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like up there at the top? Was that cool?
Oh, man, once I got up there and grabbed it, it was just kind of like, well, whatever happens from here, because that was the goal. And we weren't even exactly sure how the flag was attached to the pole. That was the other thing we weren't exactly sure about. So I had like tools in my backpack with me just in case I had to do anything. But it was actually just, latched on. And so once I got to the top and like, unhooked it, that just felt like victory. And at that point, I was ready to go to jail.
I saw the backpack. I didn't realize there were tools in it. I thought it was in case you had to stay the night up there. But all right, this is going to sound really stupid, and I accept that. But I just think your heart must have been coming out of your shirt, because, like, when I was a kid and I would play kick the can, or if you're playing tag or something, right? And there's somebody trying to find you, trying to stop you, even though it's just a game. Your heart would be pounding. And so I think, I guess I'm asking you, with all that was riding on that act, what was it like?
I definitely had an enormous amount of adrenaline, like surging through my body, obviously. But I was also hyper focused. Like I actually had another level of calm that's even like difficult for me to describe, just because I've never experienced anything like that before or since. But I had really kind of like in the lead up to it and like, preparing for it, had kind of like prepared for every, possible scenario. And so by the time that I was like on the pole, I was kind of like at peace with all of that. So like, if you've seen the video, a lot of it is me like, back and forth, really trying to keep the police calm. I'm like, I'm prepared to be arrested. This is nonviolent. I'm going to get the flag and that's it. I'm going to come down. Because there was so much tension, and obviously I'm there with my backpack. I'm just trying to let everybody know, like, this is the extent of it. I'm just getting the flag and then I'm coming down and I'll surrender.
I wonder what the police might have thought you also were going to do at the top of the flagpole?
I don't know. And we had thought through like a lot of different scenarios. We had even thought through like possibly setting the flag on fire. We thought through replacing it with another flag. We decided to just keep it very simple and focused.
Good
like just on the task of just bring it down, so that we couldn't allow anybody to make it about anything else except the fact that the flag needed to come down.
Smart.
Yeah, really
Tell us what
smart.
happened when you came down.
Well, when I came down, I mean, of course I was arrested, right away. There were people who had kind of like gathered around at that point. They started, applauding what I had done. And then once they started leading me down, they have like a little like holding area down there, the state capitol police. And as we were going down there, that was when the officer, finally asked me, he was like, so why did you do that? It was kind of like, I could tell like even for him, there was this moment of recognition of like, wow, like for you to risk, as much as you did, he was really kind of moved, I think, in that moment to really kind of like recognize and understand the significance of it.
Wow. Yeah, because he might have been somewhat like me in that it's like once you did it, I was like, oh, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why did anybody ever do that before? But it never would have occurred to me. And then once it was done, you were just so right.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. So I was arrested one time before that for protesting, and that was doing a sit-in over voting rights. And, there's just something
Boy, you're
about,
kind of a slacker, Bree.
But there is just something about like when you know in your heart that the law is unjust, and that you're taking a stand against something that is an injustice. It's just a different experience. So even I was sitting in jail for maybe like 7 hours or so that day. But even there, it was like I just felt this sense of freedom because I knew that I was standing on the right side of history in that case, and that it was the law itself that really needed to be held under scrutiny.
Yeah. Wow. It's fantastic.
Well, as the late, great John Lewis said, the scars and stains of racism are still deeply embedded in every corner of American society. We need to bring down the flag. And Bree, you did. Stay tuned to hear more from activist Bree Newsome Bass. The cat of the week is Pinky from Bloomfield, New Jersey.
Adam?
Yeah.
I've been out of work for a while.
I have not had a steady source of income in 2 years.
So saving money is really, really, really important to me. So I've just signed up for Albert Genius. I am not a money genius myself, but Albert claims to be. Albert combines real human guidance, which I could really use, with proven technology so you can stay in control of your finances and find your happy balance. So I actually just signed up today. And
you really?
Today, yeah, I did. I've already saved $3 in my rainy day fund, by the way. So it's not a big rain yet, but if it sprinkles a little bit, I'm covered. I invested using a recommended portfolio of funds from Albert Genius. And it's kind of fun the way they do it. They ask you, one of the things you fill out is, naming your goals. Like, I guess it's helpful to know why you want to save money and what you want to... I said Armageddon. I'm saving for Armageddon.
Because you never know when Armageddon comes when you're going to need that little extra bit of cash.
Yeah, exactly. And then you pick a little emoji that goes with your account. So I have like a happy face for Armageddon. You know what? It's we'll see what happens. But yeah. I think when there's sort of the seventh Harry Potter book type destruction in the world, I'm going to be walking around with bags of money effortlessly.
You really are. And what I've heard is that with a subscription to Albert Genius, you have a team of real human beings looking out for you, so I should subscribe. It gives you access to real financial advisors. You can message them anytime. So, Paula, you should be messaging them right now instead of talking to me. And if you're wondering how to build a credit or if a fancy brunch is in your budget, you can ask a genius. Hey, genius, can I afford brunch? Albert Geniuses get to know your unique situation so they can offer you personalized advice, which is really important if you're planning for Armageddon.
You know, I'm really looking forward to saving money with the help of Albert Genius, but I can tell you right now, a fancy brunch is not in my budget. So fellas, I don't have to check in with you tonight. You can effortlessly build your savings for a rainy day or that next Instagram-worthy trip with Albert Savings. With automated savings, Albert tracks your income and spending throughout the week to find any money that you can safely save without disrupting your cash flow. Albert users save an average of $400 in just 6 months. And Albert has already saved people a total of over $400 million and counting. Let's be real. Sometimes overspending sneaks up on you. You know, for me, one of the things that happens when I go to the grocery store is I wear a mask and glasses, and my glasses get steamed up, and I buy shit I don't want.
Yeah, Albert Genius might be able to help you in situations not completely unlike that. Install Albert from the App Store or Google Play today to find your happy balance and get a bonus of up to $40 when you start an annual subscription to Albert Genius. And we're back with Bree Newsome Bass.
So, hey, Bree.
Yes.
So now the flag's down, and there's obviously much more work to be done. So what are you working on now?
I'm really focused on housing rights, actually. I'm working at like the hyper grassroots local level in Charlotte, North Carolina. But of course, housing is a national issue. It is something that was a crisis even before the pandemic, as many people are aware. And now it has just exploded into an unprecedented crisis.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's that looming eviction crisis that's only going to get worse.
Absolutely. And so I'm just focused on that for a number of reasons. One, I do believe that housing is a human right. It is just one of the most basic things that you need in order to survive as a human being. And I also truly believe that if we address the issue of housing, if we could, get to a point where we have guaranteed housing for everyone, so even like the poorest of the poor among us have safe, stable housing, I just think that it would go leagues in terms of addressing poverty in this country, and just a host of other issues.
I totally agree with you. And what are your day-to-day steps working on this?
So one of the things that we're trying to do is just to build power, right, among the people, because when you're talking about housing rights, you are going up against some of the most organized, powerful entities in the country, right? Housing it's an industry. It's the banks. It's the developers, it's the city planners. People have their eyes on land and real estate and making money. And they're not necessarily thinking about humanity and human rights and dignity and just the things that people need in order to survive. And so what I'm trying to do right now specifically is just build a strong coalition among the various neighborhoods and communities that are impacted by this issue, because it's one of these things that we just simply can't fight on our own. You mentioned before we've got this looming eviction crisis. So I think we have millions of people now who are in the same boat. Fighting eviction on your own is a very difficult thing, right? But if we were all to work together, we might be able to prevent eviction for everyone.
Yeah.
That's a powerful bunch of things you're fighting against. I mean, another thing that lots of people never learned about America is that when we started out, a lot of states only let you vote if you were a landowner. I mean, the property ownership thing has been a sort of an undemocratic dividing line for the longest time.
Absolutely. And if you pay attention to how it still operates today, we still tend to dehumanize and criminalize people simply for not having a home. So the system will force you out of, stable housing, and then you're criminalized for simply being on the street and having nowhere to go. Which just further dehumanizes people. And it all ties back to exactly what you're talking about, this idea that if you don't own land, you are a nobody.
It seems so big, I guess you got to do it sort of the way you climb the pole, move up a little bit and then push the clamp onto the pole and then move up a little bit more. Because don't you get up in the morning and just feel like, oh my gosh, this is, how do you get bites out of this problem? How do you make inroads, to where you feel like you're making progress?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it can feel very overwhelming, like just the scope and the scale of the problems. The thing that keeps me encouraged, though, is just my awareness that I'm not the only person, who is fighting this fight. And it didn't begin, this year. It didn't begin with me. I think it's significant that, housing was one of the major things that Martin Luther King was looking towards, right before he was assassinated, and in terms of trying to address the whole issue of poverty, was looking at housing. So I really do think that if you look at history, there is this pattern of people kind of like pushing and fighting and pushing and fighting for an extended period of time. And then we'll have these watershed breakthrough moments, and I mean, I look at the issue of the monuments kind of in that way, now they're just like coming down everywhere, and sometimes it's like that. And I really do think there is the possibility that this kind of combination of the pandemic and the economic crisis and the housing crisis will possibly be a watershed moment where people realize, housing, it's not even just an economic issue, it's a public health issue. Right. Here we are at this moment where folks are like, you've got to stay home and shelter in place, but people don't have shelter. Right. So, maybe this will be a watershed moment where there is kind of like this breakthrough and like, what, we need to guarantee housing for everybody. That should be something that everybody has.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely happening right now with the monuments. And I think that is kind of an amazing moment where a lot of people, and in particular, a lot of white people have suddenly been woken up to look at these monuments and say, hey, yeah, why are those things there? Because, one of the hallmarks of white privilege is just never having to think about those things.
Yeah.
What do you think has brought that on? And you want to talk about the way that mainstream white supremacy is still operating amongst us?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think that there tends to be this assumption that white supremacy looks like, the Ku Klux Klan or, Hitler and the Nazis. And like that's that defines white supremacy. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, if I'm not, in the Ku Klux Klan or I'm not a Nazi, it's not white supremacy. And it's really important to understand it is an ideology, and it's so baked into everything, right? I mean, part of the reason why people don't have to be aware of it is because it is so baked into everything. But the whole ideology behind like the building of America, expanding west, displacing Native people from their lands was this belief that, white people are destined to dominate the world, to, rule over people. And even though most people, if you were to say it to them in that way, they'd say, oh no, that sounds horrible. I don't agree with that. Okay. But then when you look at the systems, the systems were designed originally to create that outcome. So even if you personally don't subscribe to that view, the reason why we see, racial disparities in policing and housing and education and all of these things is because the systems and laws were designed that way for centuries.
I just have to correct you, Bree. Bill Barr says that's not the case.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
all right. So,
he says no.
Sorry, Bree. So that answer was wrong, and you won't be winning our prize. But we do thank you for playing today on Nobody Listens.
Yeah, I have to confess that Adam's description of white people it really nails me, which is, again, very much like the flag. It's, I don't know, am I busy? I never looked at them. I never really thought about them. You know, I mean, if somebody says Robert E. Lee, okay, I know who that is. But I didn't ever question why he was, in, for example, there's a big monument area in Richmond, Virginia, and I've seen him there. And I never once said to myself, boy, that shouldn't be. And very much like you're describing, if somebody said to me, well, should we take someone that went to war on the side of slavery and was a traitor, should that person be in a statue? I would have said no. But once it was already up and running, it didn't occur to me to go like, boy, let's decapitate that statue.
Right. Yeah, there's just been so much historical revisionism, especially around the Civil War. like in the past century or so.
Mm-hmm.
And there really hasn't been a lot of room for it to be challenged until very recently, and especially like in the mainstream, for it to really be challenged. So I think that's what's happening now.
Yeah. Anyways, I am guilty on all counts of having ignored those things. So, Bree, now you're doing documentary work as well?
Yes. So, I told you about like the work that I'm doing in Charlotte around the housing crisis and all of that. So I'm just documenting that work. So my background and training is actually in filmmaking. I got my degree in filmmaking from NYU and was really kind of focused on trying to pursue a career in that in like 2012, 2013, when everything started happening with like Trayvon Martin and all this. And so I just like jumped into that feet first. And now I'm really looking at the importance of documenting things more. Like I really had not been doing that. And so I'm really now looking at like, how can we use the power of telling our own narratives to really like make this visible? Because part of what is just amazing to me is how many people are impacted by the housing crisis, but how we are still struggling to make that visible in a lot of ways,
right.
in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Well, that seems to be something that is at the heart of a lot of the work that you do, which is making what should be visible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
When in your life, Bree, did you know that you could do that and that you had to do that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. So in 2013, what hit me was like a combination of things. It was the verdict in the Trayvon Martin case and just the way that whole thing played out, which to me really was kind of like a modern day Emmett Till. In a lot of ways. And then the attack on voting rights was just mind-blowing to me, because in that year we had the Supreme Court basically gut the Voting Rights Act. And then in North Carolina, they passed this monster voter suppression bill. And it just, for me, really caused me to question how much I had taken things for granted. Like I told you, I grew up with my grandmother, telling me these stories of the past. But I really saw it kind of as the past. It was like, oh gosh, like, we've come a long way since then. And, now what I can do is just be the best me that I can be, right? Try to make some kind of contribution. But to me, it felt like a crisis. And I mean, I feel like we're still in this crisis very much so with the Trump administration, where it's like there's just this concerted effort to take us as far back as possible to, erase whatever progress we have made. And so I think I just realized how much was at stake for me, and for everybody that has come after me. And that for me was like just a point of change where I went from being like just kind of focused on myself and my career pursuits to focus on like, what am I really doing that is of social value, Yeah.
I feel small in your presence. I'm a great admirer. And,
I appreciate it.
I really appreciate your work. I can't say that I'm the most woke person in the world, but I'm probably a little groggy still. But you've gone a long ways towards waking me up.
Bree, let me ask you this one more question. Bringing down that flag was bringing down a very important symbol to bring down. And now you're working on something that's a much more fundamental and tactile issue. Do you want to talk for a second about the relative importance of getting rid of the symbols of this stuff and getting rid of the stuff itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the battle over symbols is important. And if it weren't, we wouldn't get so much resistance, right? From the people who are trying to keep it in place. Because it really is kind of like, it is like, it's representative of an ideology, And so like, in my view, I don't see a future in America where we have resolved issues of racism and we still have monuments to the Confederacy, right? So the fact that they're coming down is a good step. At the same time, we want to be really careful that we don't just engage in like symbolic and surface level measures. So we don't want to like take everything down and then say, oh, okay, we've solved all the issues. Racism is done with. And that's the deeper, harder work.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, thanks to Bree, we've learned how to climb up the flagpole of activism and fly a flag of hope. And now we're going to take that information and run it through the old Poundstonator. Paula?
Sophie, if I can get a little background music from out there in Iowa City, that'd be great. Oh, nice. Bree Newsome Bass is a hero, and I'm so glad she joined us. I'll tell you, I've got to read more history. It's only here and within the last year or two that I learned that many symbols of oppression are symbols of oppression. And like the Confederate flag and the statues of Confederate soldiers were put up long after the Civil War for just that purpose. There's so much I never noticed. I never really thought about Aunt Jemima. I just poured it on my pancakes and then felt bloated after a stack expanded in my stomach. I never thought about Uncle Ben's. I realize now I have to ask more people, what's that like for you? I mean, I would hope that if there was we're better than you beans, or you can't live here grass seed, or jails are full of them jelly, or I didn't know it was a cell phone shampoo, I would have noticed. I hope I would have noticed. I could have gone my whole life not noticing, but young heroes took to the streets. Young men who became old congressmen were jailed 40 times, and Bree Newsome Bass climbed a flagpole and took down the Confederate flag. Thank you to all of you.
She is an activist, filmmaker, musician, and an advocate for housing rights. Thank you for being on our show, Bree Newsome Bass.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we have a beachhead on the Minor Outlying Islands, whatever those are. One listener constitutes a beachhead, doesn't it? Anyway, Tony Anita Hull takes us on a tour of Jarvis, Baker, Howland, and all the great outlying islands. That's coming up after this.
Summer's here! It's crazy hot outside. We all know we should drink more water, but by the time you feel thirsty, it's too late. You're already dehydrated. You're crinkly. Your skin is getting sort of a Chinese paper quality to it. You can't focus. You feel tired.
That is correct, Paula Poundstone. Drinking enough water is critical for a healthy lifestyle. I think we all know that. It increases your brain power, boosts your productivity, prevents headaches, and increases your focus. It improves your skin and your mood. It helps your digestion and gives you energy. It prevents bad breath, and it can even help you lose weight.
But how much water should you drink each day? 10 cups? A gallon? The good news is that it doesn't have to be so complicated. That's why I start my day with Hydrant. Hydrant helps you hydrate faster. Hydrant has created a refreshing electrolyte powder that you mix directly into water to more efficiently and effectively hydrate your body. It hydrates you quickly and keeps you going for longer.
Each rapid hydration mix, and that's what they call it, has 4 essential electrolytes your body needs: sodium, potassium, magnesium, and zinc. Finally, those electrolytes have names. And it packs a punch to help your body hydrate fast and stay hydrated. If you're looking for that extra boost of energy, there's also Hydrant Plus Caffeine, which contains 100 milligrams of caffeine from green tea for that little extra lift.
And Hydrant is backed by research. The formula was developed by an Oxford scientist. It's also loved by pro athletes, top performers, celebrities, and has thousands of 5-star reviews. It's made with real fruit juice powder, is delicious and refreshing, and comes in a variety of flavors, including new summer-friendly iced tea lemonade and fruit punch.
And Paula, I'm a fan of the fruit punch flavor. You know, whenever I'm having those other so-called sports drinks, the electrolyte heavy drinks, you know, I like that red one. I like that fruit punch flavor, but the real fruit juice powder makes the Hydrant one just a little more palatable to me.
Have you ever worried when you're drinking the other kind that they're not summer-friendly?
I feel like they're not summer-friendly, and I feel like that's not real fruit juice powder. Anyway, it's backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't love it, send it back for a full refund. You really need to try it for yourself to see what I'm talking about. It tastes incredible, and it works. And I live in Southern California. Hydrant starts at just $1 a packet for a 30-day supply. Save even more with a monthly subscription.
Wow. You know what? I love that 100% satisfaction guarantee, because what do you got to lose, really? we've got a special deal for our listeners to save 25% off your first order. Go to drinkhydrant.com/Paula or enter our promo code Paula at checkout. That's drinkhydrant.com/Paula and enter promo code Paula for 25% off your first order.
drinkhydrant.com/Paula and enter promo code Paula to save 25%. And also, Hydrant, thank you for sponsoring this podcast.
Thank you, Hydrant.
Support for this podcast comes from Microsoft Teams. The world has changed, and Microsoft Teams is there to help us stay connected. Teams is the safe and secure way to chat, meet, call, and collaborate. To learn more, visit Microsoft.com/Teams.
Fun fact, the ancient Greeks believed that redheads transform into vampires when they die. And anyone who doesn't believe that clearly didn't go to high school with Cindy Goldfarb. It still hurts, Cindy. It still hurts. And we're back.
Adam,
Yeah.
French Trump has his own satirical presidential press conference mini podcast that drops every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And you can listen at paulapoundstone.com, right here, where you get your podcasts. Satirical? It is not satirical. It is French Trump taking questions from the press.
And we're back. Hey, Paula, there's something we didn't... Remember that show we did about getting the things we hadn't gotten to?
Yes, during the stay-at-home order, during COVID, we were going to get so many things done.
Right. Well, on that show that we were getting the things that we hadn't gotten to, because we spent so much time enjoying Bonnie Burns' debut of her spin-off podcast, we didn't get to Tony Anita Hull on the topic of our popularity in the Minor Outlying Islands.
Well, I'm just hoping there's a way we can correct that.
Well, we can, because we've got Tony here. She has donned her ceremonial peplos of internationalism. And Tony, how many listeners do we have in Baker Island, Howland Island, Jarvis Island, the Johnston Atoll, Kingman Reef, Midway Atoll, Palmyra Atoll, Wake Island, and Navassa Island?
We have one listener.
Wow. We are kicking ass in the Outlying Islands. I never heard of one of these islands, which is probably, even if we have two listeners, this is going to turn at least one of them against us. I never heard of these islands.
So it's not that bad. There's only 400 people, and none of them are actually permanent residents of the Minor Outlying Islands.
What?
Oh, then we're doing very well.
Yeah, exactly. That's 0.0025% of the people there are our listener.
Wait, 0.0025%?
Yes.
Okay, isn't that more than what the MIT study found in an election fraud through vote by mail?
Sure. Yeah. Sounds
Well
about
done,
right.
Tony. Well fielded. All right, well, now, look, so Tony, you're saying there's no permanent residents on these, 15 islands or whatever?
No, there aren't. So, in 1936, a colonization program began to settle Americans on Baker, Howland, and Jarvis, but all three islands were evacuated in 1942 as a result of World War II.
Okay.
So on Palmyra, there are actually 4 to 25 people who live there, but they're non-occupants. And it's a temporary population because most of them are scientists and U.S. government employees.
Now, where is would you say Palmyra?
Palmyra. So all of them are in the Pacific Ocean, except for one.
It's a big place, Tony.
I know. They lie. I feel like they're closer to kind of the Australia, Asia side of Pacific Ocean when I looked at a map. But don't quote me on that.
So you're saying South Pacific?
South Pacific, like the musical, yes. So except for
Gonna wash that
ran right out of my
Right
hair.
out of my hair. Is that from South Pacific? I guess it is.
That is from South Pacific, yes.
It's not a very South Pacific-y sounding tune.
It's not, but
It is after the colonization.
Oh, yes. Definitely. All right, so Tony, go on.
okay. So only one of the islands is in the Caribbean Sea, which is Navassa Island. So 7 of them are in the Pacific. This one's just floating on the Caribbean Sea. Now, the interesting thing
Wait a minute. Why?
That's just
Why would you include an island from the other part of the world in your? Is there some kind of political designation that makes them an outer outlying island?
So that's interesting. So first of all, they're given that designation by the International Organization for Standardization's ISO 3166-1 code, which is basically...
Wait,
Tony, you're telling us shit we already know.
Honestly. Can you expand this to stuff that like anybody on the street wouldn't know?
Yeah.
All right, what is that code? What does that code mean?
Sure. So that entity defines codes for names of countries, dependent territories, and special areas of geographical interest. So the actual abbreviation for the U.S. Minor Outlying Islands is UM. Just so you
United Minor?
Sure.
Oh,
Absolutely.
What does it mean? United Minor? Is that what it means?
I actually didn't find out what it means, but I'll take that explanation. Okay. So all of them except...
You know what? There's only one way to know for sure. Call it and see if it comes.
Right.
That took me a second.
Although, I mean, it's probably confused, poor thing, because you're trying to remember its name and you say its name. You go, and it's like, what? No, wait, what? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony.
Because it's
wow.
UM. All right.
I got it.
Right, yeah.
So this is what I think is one of the most interesting things. I like to just railroad over everyone to get through
Tony,
this.
do you want to write down on your list of difficult things to say to Adam?
Because you just crossed that one off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, passive-aggressively torpedoing my joke? Done.
I didn't mean to passively aggressive torpedo it.
No,
What?
you should have aggressively aggressive. It was a terrible joke. Come on.
So, except for...
Go on. Straighten up that peplos. Here we go.
Except for Palmyra, all of these islands are unincorporated and unorganized territories of the U.S. But Palmyra, interesting enough, is an incorporated territory, but yet it's an unorganized territory. So the only relevant...
Well, that's just the U.S. I mean, you should see my pantry and my desk. They're unorganized territories. So does anybody know what that means? Unorganized and
So when
I
you're,
hope Tony does.
So when you're, I knew
No,
you were
she
going to
doesn't.
ask, so I definitely Googled it. So when you're unorganized, there's no act of Congress specifying how you should be governed. And
What?
Oh.
so here's this is the weird thing about Palmyra. So it's the only relevant federal law simply gives the president the authority to administer Palmyra as directed or via the United States District Court for the District of Hawaii. So
Wait, what?
So I
So
mean,
they're beholden to Hawaii?
I thought that was
As
really
though the
interesting.
Palmyrans are nothing, are just Hawaiian? That's a vile calumny.
It is.
This is the vile
It's
calumny.
incommodious.
Thank you, Mrs.
Okay.
Culpepper.
What I'm not hearing here, Tony, is how do we force more of them to be nobodies?
That's. I think we need to reach the science population because a lot of scientists live there, and military population.
Huh.
So there are 315 on Johnston Atoll as of 2000, and 94 people on Wake Island as of 2000, and most of them are military. They have a lot of reefs and things, so it's protected because of its biodiversity.
So, Tony, what you're saying is, at most, we could get 1,000 new listeners out of this dump.
I think one of them should contact us.
Yeah, listen, if you're on any one of the outlying islands, just kind of reach out to us, please. Just tell us why
Well, it
you
sounds
love
like
our
we
show.
I don't know why we're putting it out to all the islands when we only have one listener there.
Yeah, but what island is the
I think we need to
listener
talk to that one listener.
Well, Bonnie,
Right.
you're the one who told us we had one listener, so I don't know which island.
No, but I thought it would be
that
interesting
came from you, Bonnie?
to find out what the place is like, because who's ever heard of it? How do you know that's not where Doug went? And he isn't. We found the.
Oh, Doug.
Dun, dun,
Wait,
dun.
no, Doug. What do you mean
because
where
we have
Doug
Doug's
went?
corpse.
Well, okay, we found the corpse.
Bonnie,
okay,
Doug was
we
found
the
dead.
corpse. That's true.
Yeah, there wasn't
Are
a
you
big
trying to spread
hunt
some
for
kind
the
of-
corpse.
But something could be there in this murder mystery.
So also-
Maybe that's where
Honestly.
the murderer is.
The
She
murderer
is
or Thomas Coyne
deflecting-
could have escaped.
Since she's been a person of interest, she is really trying to deflect onto the minor outlying islands.
Attention. Well, the reason is, Paula, is because, as our listeners know, our intern Doug was found brutally murdered. And in the interim, we have discovered that Doug's last name was, in fact, Burns. So it would make sense that a suspect might want to deflect attention.
Yeah, I can see that. Hey,
Yeah.
Adam,
What?
answer the phone.
Really? I feel like we've done
Yeah,
enough this
answer the-
week. Okay.
Yeah, answer the phone.
All right. Hello?
Adam?
Yes?
Am I the 100th caller?
No, whoever you are, you're caller number 85. Thank you for calling.
I knew it. I knew it.
No.
It's me, Cher Eva.
The psychic.
Yes, I am.
But you're a pet psychic.
I've been getting such strong vibrations from you, Adam. I called to tell you that you are going to be very skeptical soon. I can feel it. You will not believe what you are hearing. I just feel that very strongful. It's a powerful, powerful feeling, Adam.
Well, I find that hard to believe, Cher. Oh, wait. Wow, you're
Yes,
right.
Yes. Do you
Because I was
see? Do you
right
see?
then
I
feeling
knew it.
skeptical of your
I
statement.
knew it, Adam.
Wow.
It feels so good to tell you because it's such a powerful feeling, and I knew I was right. I knew it. Well, I'm gonna call back and try to be the 100th caller.
Okay, Shariva.
I knew it. I knew it.
Okay. Wow. All right, that was Shariva, everybody,
Adam.
on our 100th caller contest. What, Paula?
The craziest thing happened. A
Yes?
masked woman rang my doorbell, and she told me that she was walking by my house and noticed what looked like a painting behind my books.
What?
Because I have like a big front window, and it must have been the evening and the lights were on. And she saw what she thought looked like a painting behind my books. And she came into the house. We looked more carefully, and there was a painting behind the books. It's a mess in there.
Wow. Well, that's surprising, Paula. What was the painting
It was
of?
so surprising. It was, when we pulled it out, it at first I thought it was the Mona Lisa, honestly, because it looked a lot like the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, But it turned out it appears to be by Da Vinci, but it's the Mona Lisa. She doesn't have like that slight smile that is so talked about in that painting. Instead, she looks like she's in a little bit of pain. So it's the Mona Lisa. And isn't that amazing? So I've been so worried about money, and then a discovery like this gets made.
Right.
Yeah. So
I don't know that there's a big market for a Mona Lisa in pain unless it's, really a Da Vinci, which...
It's a Da Vinci. Yeah.
How do you know?
Because she's an appraiser, the woman who came in. It's Miss Penelope Vanderbottom. And
Penelope Vanderbottom.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, of the Venice Vanderbottoms?
I didn't ask her background. I just know that she is an art appraiser.
Okay.
And
so you have a
also,
Da Vinci in your house in Santa
yes,
Monica.
this is what I'm telling you. It's been so hard to keep this secret until now, but I really thought with our slow build in the outlying islands,
Yeah.
if we're depending on this podcast to save us financially, we are fucked. But now I have put that on your list, Bonnie, to talk to me about. But
Wait,
but
on
now,
a list?
I want her to put the fact that we're not making any money on the podcast. She should put that on her list of things.
I was thinking that maybe
difficult.
fucked was one of our vocabulary words, but it's not.
No. Oh, no,
Okay.
no. Put it on her list
Okay.
of difficult things to talk
To
to
say
me
to you,
about.
of course.
Adam, answer the phone. Answer
Really?
the phone.
I
Yeah.
just want to talk to Tony about the Okay. Hello?
Adam, it's me,
Yes?
Miss Penelope Vanderbottom. Miss Poundstone has some fabulous pieces of art in her home.
Miss Penelope Vanderbottom.
Yes? I'm an
Well, you
art appraiser, and I'm a bit of a detective.
Detective?
I found the Da Vinci behind some books that clearly Miss Poundstone doesn't read, and I found the Mona Lisa by Da Vinci. She also has a construction paper snowman that may be an El Gecko.
An El Gecko? Not an El Greco?
Oh, no, he does mostly cloudy skies in Spain. This is a snowman.
Wow.
No, this
Miss,
is it's a construction paper snowman that is potentially an El Gecko.
El Gecko, which I believe means the lizard, doesn't it?
It can.
Ms. Vanderbottom, I have to say, I'm fairly certain that was done by my son in the 3rd grade. The snowman, the construction paper snowman.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
Oh, I could have sworn it was an El Gecko.
Well, Ms. Vanderbottom, if you mistook a 7-year-old's drawing for an El Gecko, I'm not sure about the veracity of your Da Vinci claim on the Mona Lisa.
No, it wasn't. It's not a drawing, Adam. It's a construction paper snowman. You thought it was a drawing. No.
Okay.
No,
okay.
not a drawing. Not at all. No, it could be. No. No.
Well,
I'm fairly certain it is an El Gecko, not as valuable as a Da Vinci.
Probably not, because
no.
nobody's ever heard of El Gecko.
No, I've heard of El gecko, Adam.
That I have not.
Oh, well, what difference does that make?
Touche. I do not know a lot about the art world.
No, clear. You don't even have to say that to me. I knew you didn't know a lot about the art world. I mean, you didn't even respond with any kind of excitement when it turns out Miss Poundstone has a Leonardo da Vinci behind her books.
Well, I just doubt the veracity of that claim, I think, Miss Vanderbottom.
The what?
The veracity of that claim. I doubt that that's a real Da Vinci discovered in Santa Monica, California in 2020. That sounds implausible to me. And that he would have painted another painting of the same model but without the smile, it just seems unlikely.
Well, the thing about the Mona Lisa that a lot of people who are not familiar with the art world don't know, and that would be you, Adam. A lot of people in the art world don't realize that the Mona Lisa didn't always have that look on her face. There was, in fact,
what?
at least... She didn't always have that look on her face that Leonardo da Vinci captured in the famous Mona Lisa. But he also captured another aspect of the model in the Mona Lisa, which is very,
How is that
very...
spelled?
Moana.
Okay. Like Moana.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a famous Disney movie that came out a couple of years ago with songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda called Moana, and you're spelling the Moana Lisa the exact same way.
Why are we you can tell you don't know anything about the art world. Why are we talking about Disney? I'm talking about Leonardo da Vinci, and you're bringing up Mickey Mouse.
I don't even know why I'm talking to you at all. Well, Ms. Vanderbottom, I do thank you for calling in.
Well, I'm calling from Palmyra, where you have one fan.
Are you our Palmyra fan?
Oh, I was kidding you. I wouldn't be in Palmyra. There's no art there. All right, I have to go, Adam. It's been, well, not really informative talking to you. But fun.
Yeah, fun indeed. Thank you, Ms. Vanderbottom.
Good talking
Caller number
to you,
86.
Adam.
Okay, goodbye. Take care.
So do you see, Adam? I'm going to have a lot of money when I sell the Mona Lisa.
I wouldn't bank on the veracity of Ms. Vanderbottom's claims, Paula, just personally.
She seemed pretty committed to the idea. And I am not an appraiser, but that sure did look like Da Vinci to me. I couldn't believe it was just behind the books there. Wow.
All right, so Tony, are we done with the outer outlying islands?
I have good news. I made a mistake in my math. The one listener is 0.25%, not 0.0025.
Wow.
So that's good news.
You know what? It's what Seth Godin said, just keep being peculiar and your numbers will rise. Wow. I love it.
If you're a scientist out on the Johnson Atoll and you're tuned in, you could help us grow 100%. So, speaking of growth, Paula, how's the Poundstone store doing?
It's blowing up, Adam. My store is at paulapoundstone.com. You can get Poundstone pussy pillows there. They are a 4x5 pillow of catnip. And on one side, there's a cat joke, and on the other side, I'm happy to autograph it to your cat. When you order it, there's a place, and I apologize for having to fill out an online form, which is a horrible experience, but there is a place where you fill in the name of your cat, and I will autograph it to your cat. And I also have a series of comedy videos that I made, especially to help get people through the COVID-19 depression. They're called RX Laughter Videos. Click on the tab that says RX Laughter Videos. You'll find them. And there's something else new that's not available on my website, which is I'm doing Cameo videos now. So if you would like me to send a video message to someone that you know, you can go to cameo.com/PaulaP33. That's cameo.com/PaulaP33.
Well, Paula, I've got something I'm really excited about to announce. This is something I've been cooking up with the people at Starburns Audio and my good friend and yours, the hilarious comedian Jeff Cesario. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Starburn Sports Sunday simulcast. Okay, what this is on Sunday, this Sunday and many Sundays thereafter, you turn on the TV to ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, and then on your computer or on your phone, you navigate over to us, to the sports simulcast. What you do is you turn down the volume on ESPN, you turn us up, and me and Jeff Cesario and some of our funny celebrity guests will be announcing an entire baseball game and making you laugh, hopefully. We've had Alonzo Bowden sitting in. He says he'll come back, so he might be here this Sunday. The game this Sunday is going to be Yankees-Red Sox. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to ESPN on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Turn on ESPN, watch the game, turn down your volume, and then on YouTube, navigate over to Starburns Audio on YouTube, or look for the link at my Twitter feed. That's at Adam Felber at Twitter. Hopefully we'll make everybody laugh. I'm super excited about it, if that's not already showing up in my voice. That's the Starburns Sports Sunday simulcast, just coming up this week. And to segue, Paula, we want to hear from you nobodies out there. Remember, if you want to enter the vocabulary contest, which happened tonight, send your list of the vocabulary words you heard during this episode to nobodylistenstopaulapoundstone@gmail.com. Once again, that's nobodylistenstopaulapoundstone@gmail.com. But for that one, please use the subject line vocabulary contest to make sure that we see it. Otherwise, we might think you're submitting a theme song or a pithy show description.
Oh my God. We ask so much of our listeners. The other thing is, if you could make for me a sandwich and deliver it, go to Paula
Don't deliver
Poundstone.
Paula sandwiches. No.
Yeah, hey, by the way, you guys, you can find me and Adam on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're all over the place. And check out our Facebook page at Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone.
That's our show. Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone is hosted by Paula Poundstone and yours truly, Adam Leyfelber. Special thanks to our guest, Bree Newsome Bass, and thanks to house band Sophie Taft Lehman. Our show is produced by Paula Poundstone, Adam Felber, Bonnie Burns, Ken Lezebnik, and Tonya Anita Hull. Mixing by Michael Hoagie, Starburns production by Land Romo, and thanks once more to the family and friends of our former intern Doug. May you rest in peace. Technical direction by Jessica Gutierrez. Transcription services for the show provided by TranscribeMe, a premier internationally used transcription service. Use code Paula Poundstone when placing your order at transcribeme.com to receive an expedited service.
That's our show for tonight. Won't somebody please listen to me?
I think we used pretty much every vocabulary word we had, don't you, Paula?
We used a lot of vocabulary words.
Yeah, it was a gallimaufry of vocabulary words.
Yeah, how many do you think it was? You think it was like 20?
I don't know. After a while, it started to stultify me.
Yeah. So you don't think it was 20?
No. I think it could be in the neighborhood of 20. I mean, look, I don't want to weigh people down with our.
I think it was 5. That's what I
5.
I think it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 7.
You think it's 7?
We didn't use badinage.
Well, now you did, Bonnie. Thanks a lot.
Let me just check my horloge. Fuck, we've been on forever.
God damn it, Bonnie. Paula, your horloge?
Yeah. Just checking my horloge.
This is gonna make our listeners' lives really, really awful.
I never really got the one kiff.
Well, don't say it, then they'll have to list it.
There you
Look,
go.
Don't say anything that's not already in the Pentateuch.
Okay, don't be in your Adam.
That's a low blow, Bonnie.
Starburns Audio, a podcast network.